Miami, Florida, on a spring weekend in 1975. People sunning on the beach, sailing in Biscayne Bay, or relaxing at home around the pool. Nothing much going on, except a small invasion. The invasion is the beginning of a major Naval Reserve exercise in the Miami area, an exercise that will run for 2 days and involve 21 Naval Reserve units and elements of the Marine Corps and Coast Guard Reserve and the National Guard. The chief coordinator for the exercise, Captain Peter Sargurus, describes it as a simultaneous test of operational readiness by the many specialized reserve units in South Florida. Exercise operations will include mine-sweeping activities on board the USS Thrush, fire suppression training at the Dade County Fire College, simulated training in ship handling, damage control, first aid and legal proceedings at the Naval Reserve Center, and the invasion and counterattack on Fisher Island. Observers will be stationed in all of the operation areas to assess the training provided and the readiness demonstrated during each phase of the exercise. The battle for Fisher Island takes place on the first morning of the exercise. The war game situation is set up according to a carefully planned scenario. In a surprise move, a small strike force from an unfriendly nation in the Caribbean has occupied Fisher Island, located at the entrance to the port of Miami. The presence of this force has effectively closed the port to shipping. The enemy is reinforcing his position on the island as friendly forces from the mainland prepare to repel the invaders and reopen the port. At the Coast Guard station across from Fisher Island, friendly forces are briefed on various aspects of the counter-invasion, including size and position of the enemy force, area geography, and tactical assault plans. The first step toward reclaiming the island is carried out when a Frogman team is dropped just offshore to conduct a detailed reconnaissance of enemy positions. Using the intelligence information gathered by the Frogmen, a small amphibious assault group lands on the island and engages the enemy. The simulated battle generated by this engagement will last the remainder of the exercise and result in the enemy force being driven from its emplacements and off the island. The battle for Fisher Island is a small part of a major simulated operation involving 39 imaginary ships and one real one, the minesweeper Thrush. The Thrush is responsible for keeping approaches to Fisher Island clear of mines so that shore bombardment forces, logistic vessels, and the amphibious assault group can get through. At the same time, the seaborne and amphibious parts of the exercise are being conducted. Units at the Miami Naval Reserve Center and nearby Dade County Fire College are being drilled in a variety of combat-related situations. Bridge and CIC teams conduct general quarters drills and run through fast-paced maneuvering problems. Damage control parties cope with simulated enemy shell damage while maintaining watertight integrity. Firefighting teams use various techniques and equipment to douse dangerous shipboard fuel fires. And first aid personnel treat the simulated victims of such an explosion and fire. Other activities such as communications drills, battle messing, and a moot court-martial add a sense of realism to the exercise and give each unit an opportunity to exhibit its special skills. At the conclusion of the exercise, directors, observers, and assessment team leaders gather to conduct a detailed critique of each phase of the 2-day operation. The session is introduced by Captain S.K. Jacobs, Director of Public Relations.
Good morning, gentlemen. Before we commence with this morning's debriefing of the exercise, I'd like to report to you briefly about the public relations coverage. We had present at our landing exercise 2 of the local TV stations, 3 of the local radio stations, and 3 of the newspapers. Also, the VIPs in attendance included, among others, the mayor of Miami Beach, the vice president of naval affairs for the Naval Reserve Association, Commandant of the 6th Naval District's representative, and the Miami District Recruiting Command's representative. All in all, it was a fine show, and it was appreciated by all. This time I'd like to present your debriefing officer, Lieutenant Commander Posey.
Hey, Captain. Good morning, gentlemen. This morning we want to debrief on the basis of three areas that we set out as the objectives of the war game. The first being that of training, the second being that of morale of the men, and the third being that of the public relations, which Captain Jacobs has already hit part of. I'm just going to give a brief rundown of exactly what happened yesterday, and during this period of time, I'll be calling on each of you to make comments relative to your own areas. As you know, we made our first launch from the Coast Guard base at Miami Beach. In our operation, we came around to the southern part of Fisher Island. That was done primarily by the IUWD as opposed by the Seabees. I'll call on Commander Orange at this time to make comment on the Seabee landing, the opposed landing, to see if he has any comments, pro or con, relative to the three areas that we're looking at.
Gentlemen, all in all, I think the exercise was extremely well planned and from the training and morale standpoint, outstanding. Our Seabees, of course, were involved in two phases of the exercise. We acted on one hand during the daylight portion of the exercise as aggressors, and then in the evening we played a dual role as an aggressor and in the defensive perimeter. I believe the exercise came off very well. We had no real outstanding problems. Perhaps the greatest problem was penetrating the beach through the pleasure boats and curiosity seekers. We found that perhaps as difficult as penetrating the defensive perimeter that the other unit had set up. But I'd say that it's this type of training exercise that makes our program very meaningful.
Lieutenant Commander Thiel had two functions in the exercise. He wore one hat as the Commander Task Force 4, which was the amphibious task group, and he wore the second hat as the commanding officer of the USS Guam. His overall responsibilities were to coordinate the action of the invasion and also at the same time after the invasion had taken place, coordinate the action of the defense. Commander Thiel, you have some comments relative to the briefing.
Yes, I believe that our unit has so many various rates that normally we can't perform enough different exercises to put them to work. Today we had battle messing, which we handled. We had helicopter operations in the afternoon. Our bridge and navigation teams were working all the time. Our damage control parties were at the fire college, as you know. And I believe all in all of our people were kept busy performing exercises that were valuable training, and they thoroughly enjoyed this, enhancing their professional training.
Commander Dick Dolan had charge of the destroyer group, which was composed of 4 destroyers. His unit was the largest of all units that participated in the exercise. Commander Dolan, what were your comments concerning the overall effectiveness of the exercise?
I'd have to say from my standpoint, the exercise was excellent in all respects. We had some 80 people from the SAMR unit, Ship's Repair and Maintenance Unit, participate. It was sort of a unique role for this type of unit. As you said, we manned 4 destroyers, simulated bridge and 4 classrooms over here, got underway, conducted various drills all the way up, had 6 gunfire support missions on Fisher Island. It was an excellent exercise all the way around. The enthusiasm and interest of the men was tops.
Lieutenant Commander John Baldwin was the commanding officer of the Fleet Training Group. His function was two-part. One was that he was in the planning phases of it, coordinating all of the activities and looking after all of the observer functions on a post-exercise basis. Commander Baldwin?
I'd have to say that the overall grade assigned to this exercise would be excellent. We found that a very good note of realism was put into the exercises by having the firefighting occur. One of the keys to success to the exercise was the excellent communication, which enabled me to keep track of my observers and to be able to do a good job.
Gentlemen, 6 months ago when I directed you to begin planning for this operation, the name of the game was operational training and to take advantage of all of the many functions of the various reserve units in this area. Today we rode in a helicopter over all of the various functions that were going on. We saw the minesweeper Thrush in operation. We saw beaches being invaded and these invasions being resisted. We saw the Naval Reserve Center, where we knew inside was going on a vast amount of both simulated and actual training of all hands. We even went out to the Firefighting College and watched our people as various groups passed through there as a part of the training program. And as I reflect on your remarks here, it is obvious to me that we have accomplished what we set out to do. And I think each one of you are to be congratulated, and I would ask you to be sure to congratulate each and every one of the officers and men in your units.